It's super great to be here with you, Dr. Kenny. I came in from Florida to spend the day with us here at the facility. And so that everyone knows, Dr. Kenny's only been with Unicity since August as a distributor. So August 7th, I think was the day you came on. And then in November, you were our top recruiter.
Okay.
And so that's why we have you here today to help dig in a little bit to what you've been doing, because, I mean, you've gone from nothing on August 7th up to nearly presidential director this last month. And I'm sure that January will be the month you break through into those presidential ranks. So right off the bat, I don't know if you could give us a little bit of the background that got you in the door with Unicity in the first part, and then we'll build on from there.
Yeah, it was super funny. Anne-Marie Wetton, I met her 5 years ago in another business. And she reached out to me. I just got out of the hospital in April, May of this year. I was in there almost 2 months. And I had been fasting for 20 years. Yeah, I was doing it when it wasn't cool. And she saw all my information on what I was doing. And she reached out to me and said, hey, you might want to look at this. And I hopped on. It made total sense, Sam. And I listened to what she had to say. And then it was really interesting. I was noticing how she had like 93,000 followers.
Yeah.
Right. And I've learned a long time ago. I built a pretty substantial practice when I was in practice. And I realized life is all about service. So the more people you serve, the more value that you provide, obviously more people come. And when I saw that, I was like, okay, you've got to be doing something massive to be able to do that, right? So you have to have a product that's phenomenal. So I hopped on this, and what changed my life was 21 years ago, I found a tumor in my best friend's son's brain, and he was 9 years old. And they gave him 6 months to live, and he ended up, thank God, living 5 more years. And I remember the morning he passed, and I heard his mother crying. Still can't get that out of my head. And about a month before he passed, my father-in-law passed pancreatic cancer. And I went down this whole wormhole, this whole rabbit hole, trying to figure out and I started praying to God, like, what is causing this kind of stuff? And I started seeing things in my practice, and I just kept finding inflammation. And then when I was in the hospital, I made a promise to God I was going to teach the world. I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know what that looked like. And then Anne-Marie reaches out to me with these products that literally like changed my life. And, she's like, you got to start making videos. And I was like, I'm not getting TikTok. Like, and sure enough, it's just literally, I started doing it. And it was my avenue to be able to share my faith and these products that have changed my life. And it's all about your why. And so it really comes to when the vision and what's being said on the inside is stronger than the outside. I don't worry about what people think of me. I'm worried about what they're hearing, what they're understanding. And I never want another person to feel what we did. My wife had PCOS for 20 years. I mean, it took us 7 years to get pregnant. We had 2 miscarriages, and now I know why. And once you know, you can't unsee what you know. Yeah. So it's kind of what's propelled me to do the thing and to reach out. And I'm not afraid to know. I know no just means I'm one step closer to yes. And I know what I have with this and what you guys have provided. It's incredible. And I'm just ignorance on fire. I just have great leadership that have taught me what to do, like yourself, Anne-Marie, Trent, and everybody else in Rav and Yvette pouring into me. So I'm just doing what you guys are telling me to do. And I just study and voraciously apply it every single day. So,
well, I mean, it's one, I'll say that when you say that you're right, it's all about service. I mean, I had a little demonstration of that this morning. Right? Like just now, I come in from the podiatrist, boot on my foot. As soon as Dr. Kenny sees it, he's like, hey, you want to take a look at that? Right? And does more to help it in 3 minutes than, 2 hours at different doctor's offices, urgent cares, all sorts of things like that. So it's just, you see that ingrained in you. But something that I am very interested in is you came into this business with a successful business background already. Right, you have done a lot of work.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And I'm curious, what are the aspects or skills or just principles you've developed in your pre-Unicity that have been most helpful to your success in these last 5 months, 4 months?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. And I had some phenomenal parents. My father always taught me one more step, one more rep, one more this, right? So I've been getting up since 4:30 in the morning for 25 years. And I study and read every day with a purpose to apply what I learn. And in the Bible, Solomon said, in all you're gaining, gain understanding. And so everything that I do is try to put it through the lens of what I'm trying to apply it to. Right. So everything I do is about service. I have learned there's an impression of increase. And if you leave people with more than what you found them, they always return for more. And I find that in any successful person, whether someone like yourself, like your father, whoever is turning on the most life in the world has the most reward. Right. And that's kind of what I've done. Everything I do is how do I provide more value? And, it's from reading books. I've learned public speaking. I have taught public speaking. It's just 25 years of a combination of things and people that have poured into me that have put me in this position now to exceed and excel.
Yeah. So what then is, you've got people on your team, right, that have come in, and some of them like you are successful backgrounds, right, honed skills. Other ones are people like a lot of us who, wow, these products are amazing. Like, how do I help get into the hands of more people? So what have you done to help transmit a lot of this skill development that you've done to these people that feel like they're just getting started in it?
Yeah, so one of the things we do is we have a team call Monday through Friday for an hour, right? And I'm always putting in what I have learned, and I have spent, oh my gosh, I don't even know how many thousands of hours. I don't know how much money. I have always attached myself to people of success before me. I think Socrates said, if you can take the knowledge of men before you that have wrote the books that they've come by very difficultly, you will make your life much easier, right? And that's what I've done, like you do in the Carnegie thing, right? So I literally pour into our people every single day. But what's really funny is the more I pour in, the more I learn. Right. So life's always a mirror, and it gives to the giver and takes from the taker. So they call it Thanksgiving, not Thanksgiving. Right. And I think in society, we've been taught to take instead of always trying to give. And if you just when you train yourself to be a habitual giver and you're always looking for serving, it comes up everywhere. Like you said, I didn't even think about looking at your ankle. It's just, I am so indoctrinated into giving. If I'm in a grocery store, it's pushing the cart. If it's on a plane, right, it's putting the stuff above the head and the headrest for somebody. It's always looking for places to give and serve. And that's what we always talk about. It's how can you center what you're doing around others? How can you listen twice as hard and watch twice as hard and speak, right, less? Yeah. And just observe. And if you observe, you're going to find every way that you can serve that person before you.
Yeah. And it's interesting because service, I mean, in a way, service is a form of intervention, right? I mean, take the airplane example. You've got someone that's struggling with their bags, and you jump in, you're intervening with what they're doing to help grab their bag and put it in the overhead bin. And I think a lot of people don't do that because they don't want to jump in someone's business, right? Even if it's as small a thing as that, or bigger thing of, hey, Sam, take off your shoes and socks and let me see your feet, right? People will be like, oh, what? That's Sam might find that weird.
My wife would totally be like, what are you doing? Like, you don't even barely know Sam, right?
Yeah, yeah. And so people, right, they're cautious to intervene, but we need that, right? We need more people in our society who are intervening. It's one of the reasons why Stuart has been pushing, and we are moving along with rebranding the Unicity from just a health education company to being trademarked the health intervention company.
I love it.
And it's such a critical thing for someone to be able to say, hey, this, maybe they get offended, right? Maybe they don't like that I am offering this or even trying to push them to it, but they need it, right? And I can help them. And so I'm going to do it for them. Right? I'm doing it for their benefit. And that's something that I've seen a lot of people, especially when they go from an avid customer, right, they love these products, to all of a sudden their distributor, is like this mental switch. And they're like, oh, wait, how do I talk about it now?
Yep. Oh, that's great. So, something years ago when I started at my practice, right, You don't want to make it about money, right? You know what I mean? That's the weird thing, right? And so what happened is I remember talking to a young man about this, right? My mentor talked to me about it. And he said, Kenny, he goes, why didn't you tell that person to come back? You know they needed more. And people were always like, well, I don't want to make it about money. I didn't want to make it about money, right? And he said, do you believe in what you are doing? Do you believe in your products and your service and your idea? And I'm like, absolutely. He goes, I wouldn't have went to become one, right? I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't believe in this. And he goes, okay. And that's why we say you got to be a product of the product. And he said, then if you don't provide that information, if you don't share it, then isn't that a disservice?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
People, it's like mind altering, right? Like, like you say, it's a restaurant. You share the restaurant with somebody, right? It's so simple.
Yeah, right. You read a book that's life changing. And then if someone comes up to you and they're struggling with that topic, you're going to recommend the book, right? You're like, oh, you've got to read this. And it's not just, hey, this is a good book, you should read it. It's like, dude, you've got to read this book.
Right.
Like, you'd be crazy not to. Like, this is going to change your life. And that's what gets them to say, maybe I should take the time to do this.
Absolutely.
And so it's the same thing with what we sell, right? Feel great. It's so life-changing. And people think, I'm going to get $25 out of this. Like, $25, that's nothing.
Well, and the funny thing is too, right? It's all I was just sitting out there talking to you. I got like 2 messages. I'm down 15 pounds in 2 weeks. You changed my life. You saved my life. I mean, I have a lady, Sam, who literally, I got people, it's comical, who heard me speak once on a social networking platform, right? Talking vision, that joined me in this business because I asked. So in the Bible, it says you have not, for you ask not, right? Well, how are you going to get something if you don't? You've got to act like a 2-year-old. Like a kid, you got a little boy and a little girl.
Yeah.
They don't know what no means. They think no means K-N-O-W, how. I'm going to ask daddy till I get what I want.
Oh, yeah. It's relentless. It's amazing.
That's where, if we
the stamina. Right? Oh, yeah.
Go for no 20 times, right? I read that book. I don't know if you read it.
Oh, read it. Go for no is terrific.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's a great story that I'll share. I mean, it inspired Stuart's shifting of this health intervention. And it's something that happened to him when he was 19 or 20 years old. He was in England, serving as a missionary.
Okay.
And he had this companion who every single morning he'd make them get up and go running. And Stuart was like, this is a weird thing because this kid doesn't look like a runner, right? He's kind of like short, stocky, not overweight, but not like your typical runner.
Yeah.
And so one day he asked him, he's like, what's the deal with the running? Like, how'd that happen? And his companion told him the story of growing up. He was a short, chubby, overweight kid, and he'd get bullied. He, had very low confidence, low self-esteem, and he would just drown himself in food. Right, that was like he'd come home from school, pour himself a big bowl of cereal, and read the comics while eating this big bowl of cereal. And obviously that wasn't helping his situation much, but it was his way to recover from just the drama that he occurred every day at school. And one day his father came home early and saw his son there, and grabbed the bowl of cereal and dumped it on his head, and told him, "This ends today. Tomorrow we're waking up at 6 a.m. Me and you are going on a run, and we're going to do this every single day. You're not eating cereal when you come home from school anymore." And obviously, like the first few months, his dude was not a friendly guy. Like his dad was, he didn't look at his dad like, "Oh, I love you." Right? It was like, oh, there was a lot of anger there. But over the months, his body changed, and his dad stuck with it. He'd wake him up, he'd make him go running, right? All these sorts of things, and his body changed. His confidence came back, right? It's completely changed his life, and now, right, he's forever feeling indebted to his dad. And so often we look at these amazing transformations, and right, we kind of like pick that person out as the hero in the story. But a lot of the time, the hero is actually the person who cared enough to go in and intervene, and maybe even be the bad guy for a moment. But go to that person like, "Hey, you're sick, but let's get you healthy."
Amen.
Right? And I mean, what you do on social media is huge because it's able to reach a lot of people. And there's also an element of that in our own lives, right? Because some people are never going to get reached by video. You need that person to put their arm around them and be like, "Hey, let's help you here." And I'm curious how that's played out for you, because I mean, you've been very successful with helping people get on the product and have great results. how do you see how does it play out differently in helping people do that when it's people you've never met, you're connecting with through a social network, versus people in your life that you know intimately?
Yeah, I mean, so when I'm live, I've had, I don't even know, 23,000 people on a live right now. Obviously, that's blips and this and that, but I've held 800 people for an hour plus, right? And when I've done that, when I'm done, I ask a lot of questions. And I learned that it took me 2 years of my own ignorance and practice, Sam, to learn to ask questions. Because, we want to tell and I'm like, oh my God, like shut up and ask, right? And my mentor once said to me, he said, stop making things provable and make them acceptable. And when I go live, I ask a lot of questions. And so then people will comment and I'll go back and I'll follow up with them. And I'll put something in there. Hey, thanks for hopping on live. Hope you had all your questions answered. And what that's doing is creating rapport. And what I'm doing is I'm asking people for feedback and information. And when I reach out to them, they know it's not just about me selling them and making $25. And I'll have people come on my lives, they know it's called the protocol, and they'll ask me within 10 minutes, 5 minutes. And I'm like, what's important to me is you understand.
Yeah.
Because if you don't understand, you're never going to take these products right. Then you're going to say they don't work, right? And the only way these things don't work is if you don't work them. Right. And I literally make it like that. And now I didn't force it with family. I've made enough of those mistakes where my wife, after about 7 to 10 days, saw me like literally transforming and she couldn't fast. And so in my olden days, I'd want to say, oh, just drink the tea. Right.
Yeah.
And I was just kind of like, it's not what you say, but how you say it, right? It's not what you do, it's how you do it. And I just said, well, can you just wake up and sip the tea? And she's like, yeah, because she had to eat every 2 hours. She had all the signs of insulin resistance. And then it was like she had a 56-hour fast, right? 2 months reverses PCOS, all of these things, right? And now she's supportive of me and she's like, go do what you got to do. Because she sees, like, it's so funny, like they talk about you shouldn't overwork yourself. This isn't work.
Yeah.
This is service. Like every time I feel a little tired, I get one of those messages and you're just like, okay, let's go again, right? Let's change some more lives. You know what I mean? So I just my family's been watching my journey. I put it all out there. I was showing them what I look like, from when I almost passed away to where I'm at. And they're all reaching out to me. And that's the beauty of this thing, right? Like people don't buy a 1/4-inch drill, as my mentor Bob would say, because they want a 1/4-inch drill. Mm-hmm. They want 1/4-inch holes. They don't care that it's a T or it's a matcha or a, they just want to look and feel great.
Exactly.
Right? And that's what we provide them, right? So
they've got a problem that they want to solve. So if we just go and talk about the product, they're like, who cares? What does that have to do with me? Right? You got to go and talk to them about the problem and be able to say, all right, let's fix the problem.
Absolutely.
And then it's like, I don't care what you're giving me. As long as if it's going to fix the problem, let's try it out.
Yep.
Talking about those messages you receive, right? I lost 15 pounds, all this. What have you been doing to basically solicit more of those or produce more of those? Because
talk about them.
And
then what I do is I ask about them, right? So I just had a lady in 5 days, she's on my live and she's like, my Apple phone, my iPhone Face ID doesn't recognize me anymore. I had to turn it off. And then like the next day, her blood sugars are down another 35 points, right? She goes, you saved my life. So I post those and I ask people, I'm like, hey, and when I get those kind of messages, I'm like, this is incredible. I'm so grateful. Hey, would you be open, right, to looking at what I'm doing? This might not be for you, but would you be open to look at it?
Yeah.
To change more lives. And if not, no worries. I'm still your biggest fan, right? And I do the things that you talk about. I just do them more frequently, right? I do them every time. And people, it's not like when I feel like doing it, right? It's like, and sometimes you get that inspired action to do it, right?
Yeah.
Or you need to reach out to that person. That's like God talking to you. It's intuition. But like I do those things every time and I learn something every time, right?
That's an important point. Like, so let's say out of 100 customers, 100 people that buy the product from you, how many of those people would you say you invite to, hey, are you open to look at what I'm doing?
As soon as I get some kind of positive response, every single one.
Yeah.
And if I can tell that they're entrepreneurial driven, if I can tell that they're looking for something, I will talk to them. I got a guy right now who's going to be joining anytime who has a call center in the Philippines. Mm-hmm. So it's just, and he's like, well, he wasn't even doing the protocol right.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't tell people they're wrong, right?
Yeah.
So he's like, well, I'm only drinking 1 tea a day and I'm only doing fiber. I'm like, oh, okay. I said, well, you have a business, right? And he goes,
Yeah.
I do. And I said, well, do you ever bake a cake? He goes, I do. I said, well, what do you do? He goes, well, I bet you use Betty Crocker. He's like, I don't know. I said, well, you use Betty because Betty gets very good results, very consistent. I said, but if you need to bake that cake in 5 minutes at 950 degrees and it doesn't turn out, is that Betty's fault? And he goes, no. And I said, what if you just decide to skip a couple of ingredients or a ingredient?
Yeah.
How does it turn
I'll
out?
leave the eggs out.
Yeah, right. And he goes, well, it won't. I said, oh, and I said, now your business works because you figured out all the things. And so if I left the step out because I think I didn't need it, what would happen? Did the business not work? Or was it you that didn't work?
Yeah.
And he was just like, oh. And so you have to have those tough conversations like that guy had with his son, right? You have to be willing. People need leadership. They need vision. And you're there for that support, right?
Yeah.
When I was doctoring, I wasn't there to be someone's friend. I was there to be their doctor, right? If you join my business, I tell you, if you're not putting 5 hours in, 10 hours, this isn't right for you. And I don't have time for you. And that's not being arrogant. I'm here to change the world. And if you can't see that, then I'm not the right guy for you. And if you need to go somewhere else, I'd be happy. I just had this conversation yesterday. I had to get an automated system to send out messages because you can't keep up with everybody, right? And this guy got PO'd and was like, it's all about money. I said, go get it from somebody else. I'm done with you. And he was like, no, I didn't mean that about you. I said, look, this isn't about money to me. Do I want to make all the money in the world that I can? Absolutely. It's about service. And I said, I would have never given you my personal cell phone number if it was just about money with me. And he was didn't even think. People don't think from the other person's point of view. And when you learn to look at things from the point of view of the other person, everything changes.
Yeah.
Right? You've got to put them in the scenario. And that's what the great leaders do, right? That's what your dad does, what you're doing. That's what all the people that are leading in this thing, they're better at putting people in that cockpit, if you will, right?
Yeah, and it's through the doing, right? I mean, that's the big thing about leadership is, hey, I'm always driving forward. And because you realize, okay, there's billions of people to help. And if I focus on just sustaining these 20, 30, 50 people that are around me right now,
you're defying nature,
right?
Everyone's supposed to grow.
Yeah. But if I drive forward, yes, some of these people might drop off. They might not choose to keep up. But you get way more that see what you're doing. Like, okay, I want to follow that. I want to apply what he's doing.
Absolutely.
And it keeps growing. And so I'm curious on then, right, we've talked a bit about customers on this side.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the things that you've done to help, solicit more testimonials, all this stuff. But you've grown your business, right, and your distributors substantially over these 5 months. I mean, August, you came in, finished the month, manager or senior manager. You're a director next month, senior director, I think, in October.
I don't even know what any of that means, honest to God.
Well, yeah, we'll spend some time on that this afternoon.
Okay.
Jumped up to executive director in November, and right are knocking on the door, presidential. And so basically what that is really rapid growth. And you don't produce that just by getting a lot of customers.
No.
Right? You have to help other people start to have success. And so this is an area that, I mean, it's the holy grail. It's how do I help other people to duplicate what I'm doing? And I know that all of us have ups and downs in there. But what are your top 3 tips? If someone comes to you and says, hey, I'm stuck at this ceiling of, executive manager, this right rank that I can really sustain just by having some customers. Well, what can I do to break through and start to help some of these people get wins?
Yeah, I mean, so I went to the people above me, right? I'm like, okay, Trent, Emery, what are you guys doing, right? I talk to you. I'm not afraid to ask questions. I've always been I have learned you have not for you ask not. So if you're not asking and you're not growing, you're dying. I mean, it's that simple. And so I look every morning, I play some music that's uplifting to me, and I see the people that I'm bringing into this, people that I can't see yet. I see them on stage. I see them winning. And just seeing them taking the action steps, right? But I understand that my daughter does what I do, right? So I started taking her to the gym. She's 12. She didn't want to go. I said, sweetheart, I didn't want to go either. I never lifted weights because you weren't supposed to lift weights back in my day. I played college baseball, and I was going to be made to lift weights. Well, I was weak as heck, Sam.
Yeah.
The last thing you would do is go in the gym and I could barely lift 135 pounds, right? So I had to go figure it out. I said, I'm going to be there with you. And she starts kind of, you know what I mean? And I get it, right? Like the other side, where you grow is what you hate to do. It's what you fear to do. Faith and fear are polar opposites, right? And you can't live in both places. And so I said, we're going to go. And I take her, and then we get there, and she's kind of scared, right? It's like getting them on the call to make the call, right? To do the text message to the people, right? Well, wait a minute, it saved your life. Why would you, right? Like, and so then I get her in there. And what's really funny is when you get in there and we start doing the machines, and she realized, well, this isn't so bad. I said, now do one more rep. And she's like, I said, Cadence, you are learning today that every time you fail is where you grow stronger. You don't grow muscle without failing. You don't grow in life without failing. Get used to failing, but fail forward. And then I see this guy, Sam, and he's massive, right?
Yeah.
And he's 50. And I go over to him. I said, sir, can I borrow you for a second? He goes, yeah. I said, this is my little girl. First time she's ever done this, like a new distributor, right? Oh my God, how am I going to call?
Yeah.
What am I going to do? And I just said to him, I go, my little girl's first day goes, this is amazing, right? You know what I mean? He's like, oh my God, this is incredible. Like, we never saw little girls in here like this. You're so inspiring. And you could just see her, right? We train dogs better than we train people, right? You know, and she's seeing this, and I go, do you just come in here? He goes, I've been doing this for 30 years. I'm like, really? Like, so maybe when somebody like your dad speaks, maybe we should listen, right? And then all of a sudden, I go, well, how many days a week do you do this? He goes, I'm in here 6 days a week. Then his girlfriend's over there who used to be on stage, and my daughter gets to meet her. Well, all of a sudden, my daughter was so excited that she wanted to go back. We went back later in the day, and then she met other people. Action breeds action, right? And as I think it was Buckminster Fuller said, he said, any man can count the seeds in the apple, but only God can count the apples in the seeds. And the beauty of this is you don't know which seed is going to take off. And a seed doesn't say, hey, I made 10 seeds today. I'm good.
Yeah.
It never stops. And our thought are seeds. And the more we water, the more we provide nourishment to it, the faster it grows, right? And you're going to have some orchards that take off, right? And that's what the scripture says, 30, 60, 100-fold, and then the blessing of 1,000-fold.
Yeah.
But we have to apply what we learn. And what we've been taught in school is not to apply, it's to memorize, right? That is one part of the strategy, right? But there's others. And when you learn to interact with your mind and you start to learn to grow it, like your dad's done and things that you're doing, you start to grow and you start to hang around people like that want to pour into you all the time, right? Somebody's success will give you the shirt off their back. But you got to be willing to ask. You got to be willing to do. Go ask that person. How did you become successful? What did you do?
Yeah.
What did you find? Like Rav, like I don't have my license anymore. I retired. I burnt that bridge. But you know, I'm in Florida and there's a huge chiropractic convention. I'm going to go get the thing so I can go to conventions and mingle with people. I was talking to Rav about that. He's like, man, we used to go to these, events and this and that. And he goes, we would just show up and like just talk and see opportunity. And it's not, you don't go and say, hey, I'm with Unicity. Hey, yeah, I got this great thing. No. You listen to people. Hey, I'm new, right? Well, what do you do? Oh, man. Well, I used to be a chiropractor, but now I help people reverse insulin resistance. And they look at you like, because they've never heard of it. Oh, we help people reverse type 2 diabetes. And they're going, oh, I know like 15 people with that. So if they don't take the bait, I just switch, I pivot, right? But most people keep beating the dead dog. And that's the problem.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I used to go to networking events when I was working with the Dale Carnegie franchise, right? And we're trying to sell other companies their courses and then put their employees through. And so we'd go to these networking events. And the first few was, just such a waste of time because I was making the same mistake as everyone else there. It's like, hey, I'm trying to find people to talk to about what I do. Everyone just wants to sort of tell their story. And so it was time to decide, well, let's apply what we teach.
So let them tell their story, right?
And our goal was, okay, every single interaction, I want to learn twice as much about them as they learn about me. And all of a sudden, we started making money from the networking events because people wanted to talk to us. And like, oh, yeah. Here, I want to call you. What's your number? Right? Instead of me like giving them their card and like, hey, yeah, here's this. They're asking us for it. And because they're like, oh, I enjoyed this. This person actually was interested in this. And they got me talking about problems we're actually dealing with. Why would they do that? Well, maybe it's because they can actually help with these problems. And so, yeah.
Well, it's his first principle, right?
Yeah.
Like you take an interest in someone else. And
Yeah.
the less you say, the more they like you.
Yeah. Become genuinely interested in other people. Absolutely. Yeah. What do you what are the biggest things you can do though to help someone actually take the action, right? Because that's the big kind of wall, right? The precipice where they see themselves in the end and they're like,
take it with them.
yeah,
Right.
take it with them.
Yeah. I mean, so now what I do, thanks to you, is I'm like, okay, well, let's hop on a call. Let's make some text messages. And I teach them how to do it. Then I stay on there with them until they make it.
Yeah.
Because all I'm trying to do is see who the person is. Like, I find in life, too many people are trying to change other people. What we need to do is inspire people, right? And people are always showing us who they are, and that's okay. Like, once I know who they are, I'm going to feed them as much as they want. And so I let them show me who they are, right? And that's, I mean, it's all written. It all says the same thing, right? Like, if you want to know a person's thoughts, listen to their words. If you want to know their heart, watch their actions. And so what I do is I'll help them. I'll help. You ever read Joseph Campbell's book, The Hero of a Thousand Faces?
Yes.
Okay. Remember, the whole thing was the premise of the cave, right? That's what Star Wars is all about, is the cave, right? It's always about the cave. Well, what are they finding in the cave? They're finding themselves. So really what we are is on a discovery of finding ourselves, right? But people are too afraid to do that. And so you have to be the leader to show them how to do it. It's like parenting, right? It's not that you're looking down on somebody, but you just have to show them what they need to do, right? Like when I came into this, I told Anne-Marie, I don't want to worry about the structure right now. You handle that. You're an engineer. You just tell me what I got to go do. You tell me what I need to do, and I'll go do it. Yeah. And I don't be afraid to coach me. Like, kick me in the pants. When I need kicked in the pants, I don't care. I'm here to help. I want to grow as fast as possible, serve as many people as I can. And if you come with that attitude, you attract who you are. Birds of a feather flock together. And it's just a matter of time. And if people, as they always say, they don't care what you know until they know how much you care. And if you show people you're there for them, if you show people that you care, they will do any and everything they can to help you. Yeah. And I find it funny. I mean, if I ask you for help genuinely, as long as it's ethical and moral, you'd always be like, yes. Yeah. It's in human nature to want to help people. Why are we so afraid to ask for that?
Yeah.
It's so crazy, right? So, what I did, Sam, I just had this inspired action out there. We're going to go live Facebook on my Facebook page in a couple of days. I'm asking not only people on our Facebook page to do this that are sharing the products with us, but I'm asking people that have had amazing life-altering stories to do with us. So that way they can share their message also, right?
I don't know if you've read the book 12-Week Year.
No.
Amazing book. Okay. Definitely recommend. And I think that we'll be talking about it in some of the trainings upcoming. But in it, they mentioned this study that was done where they had people who had a chronic disease, right, lifestyle condition, where if they didn't change their lifestyle, they were going to die.
Yep.
And so it's like your back is truly up against the wall. And they compared that group to another subset who had the same situation, but then they put them into a peer support situation, right? So they had peer support to help make the behavioral change. And what they saw was that the group with peer support was 7 times more likely to make the behavioral changes and sustain them than the group that only had the fear of death hanging over them, right? And so you look at that and you think, okay, so it's more motivating than the fact that, hey, you will die over the next 12 months if you don't make these changes is, hey, here's a group of people who are also working on helping make those changes.
Absolutely.
And that's what I love about this Facebook Live, and a lot of what you're doing is you're connecting people. I mean, it's our superpower. It's the reason why you look at medical practices and all these things, and they can't solve this massive health problem. They're not built for it because they can't create that peer support network that naturally happens through the network development that we do in our business.
Absolutely.
And so, yeah, what are the, I mean, besides the live, like what are the other ways that you're, both on the customer side and the distributor side, that you're adding in that element of the peer support to help produce results?
Yeah, I mean, so I'll get messages from people, right, through a system that we have, because I have to send out group stuff to people because you just can't keep track, right? And then when they respond back, I can tell if they're confused, right? And so I know where there is no picture, the people perish, right, as it says. But if you give people a picture, they don't perish. Hope deferred is a sickly heart, but hope restores tree life. So it's always about taking them further than where they were. So I'll reach out to them. So I always look at this as a lifelong relationship. Everything I do, I'm trying to make lifelong relationships, right? And people feel that. And so I'll reach out to them. I'll call them. Hey, do you want to speak? please, and then they realize, oh, I can do this. And a lot of those people are joining me, and it's only been a handful of months, right? And so, and what I do is I'm really good at tapping into people's hearts, right? Like, look, are you sick of watching our kids get sick? Are you sick of watching all the chronic disease, right? In medical doctors, I have doctors joining me because they have 5 to 10 minutes tops. That's all an insurance company will pay for, right? Interaction. So now I'm like, look, we can go live, right? We can go live and provide expertise. Doctor means to educate. Educo means to draw out from within, right? It means to educate your people. That's what we're supposed to do. So now we can take our clinical knowledge and we can share this, right? In my team, I'm like, look, don't worry about all the science. Let me take that, right? Let me teach you to build your belief system, right? But like, bring those to me. Let me use that part. That's my blessing and my curse. But now I have a platform I can get in front of people and help them understand. Because when they understand, they'll do it.
Yep.
Right? Your 3-year-old will do it if they understand. My little girl, I remember Sam, she was 2 and she was going to grab something hot. And I saw it and it was on, the stove, right? And I was like, okay, I was making hot coffee back then. And I put her hand beside it and she was like, whoa, that's hot. And I'm like, I was creating synapses, right?
Yeah.
Like we're doing with making people successful, right? Doing the thing with them. You didn't die. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they see you or me being successful. And I'm like, look, I just sent out 12 responses to people with the text message example you gave. And I'm like, that works. And 2 people responded back of 12.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's okay, guys. People are busy. And I go, you know what's funny? One said no, but thank you. I go, did I combust? Did I die? And they're like, no. And I said, okay. The other one said, yes. I go, all you got to do is put it out there, right?
Yeah.
But I showed them it's okay. And even, they think that I don't get rejected. The truth, I've been way more rejected than any of them have ever been.
Yeah.
I've just taken more risk and made more mistakes, right?
Yeah.
I've just compiled them faster. But my little girl, once I let her fill that example, then she realized when I showed her the stove, she was like, I'm not touching that. She didn't have any cells of recognition in her mind. And once you understand, like once you have a picture, you can gravitate to it. And then our job as leaders is to keep pounding that picture, right? Keep watering that picture, keep giving that love to that picture. They did a study, it was called the Bloomers, that goes right along what you're saying. And they they were kindergarten kids. This is fascinating. And this is where all of us as leaders need to go. And these kids, the teachers were told that these kids were going to be they were the smartest kids ever. They were going to change the world, which is true with every kid, right? Well, when the school year was over, those kids did test off the charts, but they never initially took the test.
Yeah.
The variable was the teacher. But because the teacher taught those kids like they're the greatest kids ever, because those teachers put the best in every situation, in every person, those kids tested off the charts. So that just tells us as leaders, we should put every bit of effort into every person that we can. And if they show us they don't want it, next. It's okay to say next.
Yeah. That's such a key point, right? Because this business really can blur the lines for people between, right, the business and the relationship. But like in relationships, you have to be able to like put up the barrier to say, hey, right? The separation of tasks. You've got to do this part. I can't do it for you. The very idea of me doing it for you would damage you, right? And so you have that situation in our business where people think, hey, I got to get everyone signed up if I want to get my goals. And it's actually not true. You got to get a handful of people going every little bit and help them, some of them, to succeed. But if you're just trying to convince everyone, then, well, you'll end up convincing some people who don't actually want to do it. And then you're in a situation where you're reconvincing them every single week or month to try and get anything. But from your point, it's like, hey, when I sense any bit of resistance, oh, okay, next.
Take it away. Yeah, right?
Yeah, I'll walk away, go to the next. And sometimes, right, they turn around and they go, no, I do want it. Like the guy who messaged you, like, oh, it's just about the money. But other times, they will just walk away.
Yep.
And it's like, well, bullet dodged.
Absolutely, because then what I always look at, those are usually the people that are paying the butts, taking all they're energy vampires, they're sucking your energy. So when you eliminate that, we're always telling the universe, right, or God, what we want. We always are.
Yeah.
So if I'm focused on that, I'm going to get more of that. Why do I want that?
Yeah.
I'm like, thank you, God, for saving me from that. And then I bring in somebody that brings in other people. Like, that's who I'm going to focus on. You know, I mean, there's a lady I just brought on as a customer, and she's already referred 3 people. Immediately when I see that, I reach out to her. I'm like, holy smokes, man, this is incredible. Hey, I know obviously you're probably loving the product. Hey, don't know if this is for you, but would you be open to look at what I'm doing? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And duplicate it.
Exactly.
So,
it's like, hey, I want to give you sign up with me. I'm going to give you everything you need to be successful.
absolutely.
But then I want to see you take some steps.
Yes.
Right. And if
Yeah,
you take
live
those
the
steps,
test, right?
hey, I'll give you more. You take more, right? I'll give you more, and it keeps building.
Yes.
But if you have that situation where it's like, okay, here's this, they don't do anything,
Done.
you can't go back and say, okay, here's more, right? No, it's got to be this growth building, because there is this element of, Darwinian, survival of the fittest, and we want to help that as much as we can. But yeah, when you focus on the weakest link,
You get more of that.
you get more of that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's a great quote from Stuart that you just mentioned in passing, where it says, "Strengthen the strong and make the weak irrelevant." And that's how you help the most people possible.
Absolutely.
That's the only way to get to help millions and millions of people.
The 80-20 principle, right? 20% of what you're doing earns 80% of your wealth. 20% of your home is where you spend 80% of your time. 20% of your clothes, you wear 80%. Everything is designed like that, right? So focus on the 20.
Yeah.
Takes
Yeah.
everything
And
else.
so on that note, let's look at the month of November, right? The month that got you over here. And it took us some time to coordinate. But in that month, you had 7 new frontline partners. I think you were also in the top 3 probably of customer recruiters in that month. But where were you putting that 20% of time to produce that result of these 7 new, right, quality partners that you signed up?
Yeah, I mean, so when I go live, I always follow up when people comment. So again, it's really about asking questions, what I do. And once I get those questions on that live, like if I'm on TikTok or whatever, I'll go back and I'll answer those. Okay. And so, and it's usually a question. I shouldn't say answer. I'll write a question in, Sam, and it'll say something like, hey, thanks for hopping on the live. Hope you had all your questions answered. I always want to leave it with a question. The reason I do this, people are told no 7 to 12 times where they're told yes.
Yep.
Every objection I take away, I'm one step closer to the yes, right? And so this is what I do. And then when people get me live, I'm able to tell a story, right? And create this energy. And in doing that, they're connected to me. I'm vulnerable. People are so afraid to show vulnerability. Vulnerability is when people connect with you, right? It's not when you, I've got it all figured out. Nobody likes that person, right? And nobody wants to be told by that person. But when you show people that you're a real person, that you're vulnerable, people want to join that. And it's almost like, wow, if he didn't know that and he could do that, maybe I can do that, right? Like, it's the greatest gift you can give someone is to believe in them when they don't believe in themselves. And those people will run through walls, right? I mean, it's I've got people on my team right now, they're so close to figuring it out. And I just keep seeing them on that platform. You know what I mean? And like, some of the hardest working people I've ever met in my life. They'll do anything. I don't even ask them, but because I've given so much of myself, they just go do things. Like, they create a Facebook page, they do these wonderful things, and they're always there for you, right? That's who you start to attract. But in order to attract that, you've got to be that first. You know, if it last you're first, at first you're last. And if you just put everybody first, right, eventually it's going to turn that way.
Yeah.
And if you help enough people get what they want, you're going to get what you want, right? And that's really what I focus on. I literally focus on always trying to put the question out. And then what I do is I follow up. And the follow-up is the goal. Most people don't follow up. And I might hear no in different ways a lot. I want to get as many objections out of the way as fast as I can. Like, when I hear objection, I get excited because I know how to diffuse it. You have to learn how to diffuse that. Once you take the objection away, the person can hear what you're saying, right? And that's where I focus.
Yeah.
And when you do that, then people, their guard comes down.
Yeah, because, I mean, and you're going to hear the same 10 or 12 objections over and over and over again.
It's probably 3, right?
Yeah. We're being generous, but that's going to make up 98% of the objections you'll ever hear are these same general things. And so if you focus on those pretty quickly, you've got responses to all of these.
Absolutely.
And so, but that's interesting. So how many of these recruits that you had really came out of the lives and the follow-up and connecting with them?
I haven't even honestly looked at that, Sam. I would say most of them came out of the lives. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it was
Were a lot of them customers first, or was it straight into it?
straight in.
Oh,
I've got people, I literally talk about big vision on my lives.
Mhm.
Like I make sure people understand I'm not there to sell them something.
Yeah.
I talk about it up front. I mean, I'll straight up say, hey, I've got a protocol I'm going to share with you. And if you want it, awesome. And if you don't, I'm going to change your life. And I aspire to be the best in the world at what I do. It doesn't mean that I think I'm better than anybody else. I'm trying to be the best version of me, right? And if I work on that every day, people feel that, they know that, they see that, and they want to join that because they want that. They just don't know how to get that, right? And in order to get something that you have to give something up of a lower nature to get something of a higher nature. And what I've learned in life is some of the things I've been doing are not going to be successful, right? And they're not going to be sustainable. So I'm going to have to pivot. And I'm going to have to change, and I'm going to have to figure different things out. And I'm not afraid to make those changes either, right? So that's kind of the funny thing. I read a book by John Wooden, and this man, most people don't know who he is, but he won 10 national championships, right? And the first thing he did every year is he had the players put on their socks and showed them how to tie their shoes. The fundamentals. Mental, right? The word tells you what it is. Have fun. It's always the same, right? And it's mental. It's always a mental game. It's not a physical. It's not how somebody looks. Like people say that stuff too. I'm like, I crack up. I'm like, it's not how you look. It's the presence you bring, right? It's like people, while we're making excuses, you can't serve and make money, right? So what I've learned is if you don't like the result, that's okay.
Yeah.
Sam, how can you help me, right? Where's my pitfalls? What am I not seeing, right? Like, that's what I do. I reach out to Trent. I reach out to you. I reach out to Anne-Marie. I reach out to, like, I'm always asking questions. Always. Like, I mean, I don't even barely know you, and I'm asking you questions all the time. Don't be afraid to ask questions. I guess that's what I've really done is I ask questions.
Yeah. I'd say it gets more important the better you get, because that's one of the, I guess, paradoxes in our business is, I mean, a lot of businesses, you want to look better and better and better, right? So that people are like, oh, I want to work with the best, right? This guy's a natural and all those things. But in our business, that hurts you, right? Because if someone's like, oh, wow, Kenny, he's amazing. He's born to do this, right? I could never do what he's doing. Then it's like, oh, phew, you cut yourself off. And so you have to go out of your way to add that vulnerability. Yes. And to make it clear, not only am I asking questions, but it's open about it. People knows, like, there's so much I don't know, so much I learn, and I make mistakes, and I share that because I need people to see that, yeah, at the end of the day, the only thing between me and you is just more time and more failure.
Yep. And that's one thing I guess, you're saying that too, Sam, is I always do that in front of my team. I always ask questions in front of my team, and I let them know, like, I'm not real good with technology. And they know that. And I'm like, look, you can't be all things to all people. Like, so don't worry about that, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's not my thing. But I know where to go to get that thing done. And I know where to delegate. And that's one thing I learned from one of my mentors. He goes, good leaders want people to think highly of them. But great leaders want the people to think highly of themselves. So the more you can make those people around you feel phenomenal and inspired, the more they're going to want to do good. The dog that is rewarded will want to do more good.
Yeah. But yeah, and the key with people is they have to see themselves achieving.
Yes.
Right? I can't make someone feel great about themselves with just false praise and, right, heaping on things, or even in our business, right, building them.
Yes.
Right? If someone knows that they're at this rank because of the people that I just put under them,
they didn't learn a thing. They didn't learn a thing, right?
They learn the opposite lesson. They've learned that you have no trust in their ability to produce.
Yes.
Because otherwise, why would I have built their whole business for them? And so it's, hey, how do I help you achieve by helping you take action, helping you realize failure is not the end of the world, and that, oh, we can learn from it and take more action. And look, there's success at the end of that road.
Well, and that, I mean, it's no different than giving somebody product.
Yeah.
The pride of your ownership is determined by your ownership. So if you don't earn it, you're never going to keep it.
Yeah.
That's why your dad makes you do what you do, right? Like,
yeah.
I mean, you're out, right? You're in the field, And I admire that. That's one of the things I look for with joining this place is I'm like, okay, well, what are the kids really doing, right? What, like, I mean, is it usually being given to them or they're out earning it? Because I've earned everything in my life and I am so grateful for that. Like I've lost a lot of things, but it doesn't matter because if you understand it, you'll get it back that much faster.
Yeah.
You know, and so
it's maybe the best thing my parents have ever given me is insisting that you learn to work and that things don't come free. And so growing up, yeah, I hated it. It's like, why all my kids in our neighborhoods, our friends, they had all these toys, cars, right, all this stuff. And I was like, what's going on? Like, how come I'm the one that's got chores after school until it's like time to go to bed? Yeah. It's like, I remember when I was like in high school and someone pointed out, it's like, Sam, like, why can't you go? Like, your family's rich. I was like, no, we're not. What are you talking about? It's like, Sam, there's an elevator in your house. I started to put the dots together and I was like, well, that's true. But like, literally, I asked my parents one time for money to go see a movie because I was strapped. I had no money. My friends were at the door. They're waiting to go. And I was like, hey, can I have $10 to go see the movie? And my parents were there and they just busted up laughing. They thought it was so funny that they would just give me $10 for nothing. That they couldn't even hold it in. And I was like, hey, go without me. Mm-hmm. And it's like at the time, like, yeah, that's embarrassing. You don't like that. Like, wow, they've got so much money. Why can't they give me $10? But now it's like, oh, thank goodness.
Yep.
Thank goodness for that. And hopefully, right, in the business, people will recognize that long term. It's like, oh, thank goodness that you cared about me and saw enough potential in me that you didn't just prop me up.
And that's the thing. The people that do it, they love you so much. Yeah. They want to give it to you, right?
Yeah.
But they know they can't. Yeah, I mean, you can't do that.
Yeah. And you create incredible loyalty in relationships by being that sort of strict parent.
Absolutely.
With the downline and be like, hey, I want to help you. I'll be here to work with you. So long as you're working and we build this. But I care about you too much to do this to you.
Yeah, as John Lennon said it best, right? He goes, you know, if you tell people the truth, you won't get many friends, but you get the right ones, right?
Yes. Very, very, very good quote. So then we're just coming into a new year, right? I love New Year's. It's just the best time of the year. But you're looking at this Outcast. It's your first full year with Unicity. Mm-hmm. You got to run with this. I mean, what's going through your head? You don't need to like share all of your personal goals and stuff, but I know there's a lot of people right now who coming out of this year and they've got these big hopes and dreams. And so what are you sharing? What is it that you want your team to hear or other people to hear for what you want to get done?
Yeah, I mean, all I keep visioning and listening to in my mind and going to bed and meditating on multiple times a day is seeing every person I brought in on that stage. Mm-hmm. I don't see myself I just know I'm going to serve them to where they get there. That's my whole focus. Every day I've got my, my little SOP that I do. I just do my thing, right? And I've got a number set in my head where I got to get, and that's where I'm going towards. And the more people I serve, the better. I know every day I'm fine tuning. I'm getting a little bit better. I'm getting better onboarding. I'm just all those little things. Like I've got people around me that are more strategic at that are helping me do that, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm learning from them. And I'm asking them questions. I know what I know, and I know how to provide that. And so I'm teaching that to build belief in my people, to understand why the products work. There's things that I'm doing, but honestly, all I'm focused on is getting those people on that stage. Yep. I've understood, you've probably seen this before, Sam, but I had a patient once. I'm Christian. So like, have you ever seen negative art or impressive art?
I'm not.
You probably see it. So there's blocks of wood. I wish I'd had it to bring it, but this man made it for me. And it had the word Jesus in it, but 90% of the people can't see that. Here's a better example. You ever see the internet forwards? It'll have the first and last letter of the word, and you can read it and put it together. The trick is you have to expand your vision, as your father said out there, right? But if you see the end, the mind fills the rest in. Mm-hmm. You don't have to know the how. The how's up to God.
Yeah.
You got to decide why. You have to have the vision, the purpose. What God impressed must be expressed. And when we're not expressing what's put on our heart, that's where the problem comes in. The word desire, day meaning from, sire means father, from the Father. When that's been impressed on you, there's going to be a lot of naysayers out there. My dad's like, why don't you get a JOB, a just over broke, right? When I started this. And I'm like, laughing. I mean, like, he loves it. It's changed his life, but that's just all he knows. And that's how I know that what I'm doing is the right thing. When I flip my father out, I know I'm doing the right thing, because that's where I get the most griff from, right? The most crap from. I'm sure you've read Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Yeah.
Remember Sharon Lecter's story about the crabs in the box? Your crabs in the box are always going to be your family and your friends.
Yeah.
Right. They're the ones that are going to pull you back in that box. Yeah. It's not covered. Right.
Yeah.
You got all the opportunity to jump out of that box. And every time you go to get out of the box in the opportunity, somebody pulls you back in the box. Well, it's always your family and friends. And so just know that when they're trying to pull you back, it's not that they don't love you. It's just they don't see what God put in your heart.
Yeah. And you're part of their comfort zone.
Amen.
Right? You being in the box is what's helping them feel comfortable.
Yep.
So,
yeah, the comfort zone, right? The other side of that's where you grow.
Yeah.
And if you're not expanding that, right, you're contracting. So
yeah. If you're feeling comfortable in your business, then that's the biggest red light.
Yep.
Like, where do I need to get uncomfortable? And it's easy to find it. It's like, okay, what is the thing that I know would be good, but is the most scary?
Yep.
Okay, that's the perfect. Fear is one of the best compasses for where to.
It is the compass, right?
Yeah.
You know, it's funny. I don't remember the lady's name, but she was an opera singer. Best voice ever, supposedly. And they were like, but nobody knew who she was. She was the one that wouldn't get on the calls, wouldn't do, you know what I mean, would never do the text messaging, that kind of deal with it. Yeah. See. And so anyway, they were talking, I think it was Bruce Springsteen. And I don't think he was necessarily like a great singer per se, right? But he was a phenomenal performer. Well, everybody knows who Bruce Springsteen is, right? I can't even remember her name, but she was so talented and he wasn't. And we get so caught up in talent. Give me somebody to work. I don't care about talent. You can cultivate and build all that stuff, right? Well, they asked her, they go, how do you know you're not ready to go out and perform? Oh my God, I get headaches and I get nauseous and I'm sweating and all this stuff and I sweat through my clothes. I might even vomit. I just can't go perform. And they go, Bruce, how do you know when you're ready to perform? He goes, oh my God, man, I'm sweating through my clothes. I'm going to vomit. Sometimes I do. My head's popping out. And then I know I'm ready to go. And it's the same freaking physiological response. It's fear, right? But fear hones you and makes you stronger. And if you just learn to use it for yourself instead of against yourself, it'll propel you where you need to go.
Absolutely.
But same thing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's how do you use it?
Yeah. I love to read. Sounds like you do too. But I split my time between reading the professional development type books and then like sci-fi and fantasy. And right now I'm reading a series where it's all about, right, these people go on these different paths. And there's this quote in there, it's like, they're telling the main character, there's like tens of thousands of paths that you can take, but you can boil them all down to improve yourself. And I think that's just a very key thing about this life, right? There's a million directions you can go in this life, but all the positive directions boil down to improve yourself. And Jim Rohn has that amazing quote of, hey, work harder on yourself than you do on your job.
Amen.
Which is really hard to do in most jobs. Like most corporate positions, they're not going to give you time for that. You've got to be incredibly motivated to be able to find the time outside of your job to be working on yourself. But this is a business opportunity where it's exactly synergistic. And the more you're working on yourself, the more you're working on your job. And the more success you're having in your job, and the more you're getting worked on yourself. And so I just love it. I mean, I love what we do.
Well, you can't point a finger, right?
Yeah.
In this. Like, because if you point a finger, 3 come back. You know, and I mean, it's everything is predicated upon you if it's your business.
Yeah.
And it's like when people understand that, when they realize I used to blame everything. I was 16 years young and I was driving my car like an idiot and I wrecked it. But I was driving the speed limit.
Yeah.
And my dad goes, he goes, you were going too fast. And I was like, what are you talking about? I was doing the speed limit. He goes, you lost control of your car. You were going too fast. And he had to say it to me like 10 times before it would sink in. And I had to realize that, oh my God, it was my responsibility. And when you take that in and you understand that, okay, who am I responsible for? If Sam's on my team, I'm not responsible for you, Sam. I'm responsible to be the best version of me, pour into you all I can, get better, teach you better. And if you want it, great. And if you don't want it, that's okay. I'm over here doing my thing. And eventually you might say, wow, okay, he's crushing it and I'm not. What's he doing? And then you come over and ask, you know, or you can offer that help. But like, I'm not pouring into people that don't want it. Like when I was in that hospital bed, dude, like life becomes very fine. You realize how finite it is. And it's like, you don't take things for granted. You know what I mean? Like every moment I get with somebody, I'm giving my life away. And I'm only going to choose to give my life to those that I want to give my life to. And when you approach it like that, everything changes, man. I mean, I was so grateful I went through that. I mean, I choked to death for nearly 2 hours from medical procedures of things that were caused by the things we're fixing. I watched my wife go through that. You know what I mean? It was like to watch her go through that. And my daughter, my mom and my dad, I am so grateful I went through that. Like I wouldn't change it for anything.
Yeah.
I wouldn't change anything in my life I've went through. Everything's led to me where I'm at. And if I change anything, I change who I am. And so I'm super grateful for this opportunity, what we're doing. I mean, you can be terrible and get a phenomenal business with this because these things work so freaking well. People can take them wrong. The only way they don't work is they don't open the box. And sometimes that does happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's crazy, dude.
Yeah.
Crazy what we have here. You know? And that's the way I want to come across people. I want you to be like, it's so common sense, but which isn't so common.
It's not so common these days. Yeah.
But I'm like, man, I want to be so common sense. You're like, I got to join this guy. You know what I mean? Like, I want people to have fun. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to be successful and be on an island and I have friends to come see me, right? Like, I want everybody around me to succeed.
Yeah.
And when you have that treehouse, do you drop a ladder down for everybody to come up or do you pull it up, right? We work in this structure that your dad's created and we drop the ladder, which is really weird to people, right? I mean, really weird.
Yeah.
And my dad's like, what's one of the pyramid schemes, And I started laughing. I go, Dad, pyramid schemes are illegal. Right? I said, but you mean a pyramid structure? Yeah. I said, you work for one. I said, you'll never reach the top. I go, God bless Mom for having to deal with you, but the other person's already taken. I'm like, but there's always, I said, but you start at the bottom, but you can reach the top.
Yeah.
It's on you.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the one place in the world where, right, the person above you genuinely wants to pass every single little bit that they know onto you.
Yes.
Right? It's like, you're not going to find that in most companies. Your boss doesn't want you to be better than them because if so, why are they your boss?
They take your spot or you take their spot, right? Yeah.
Exactly. But here it's like, Kenny's looking at you and is like, hey, the best thing possible is for you to be better than me. I'm going to teach you everything I know and I hope you've got this magic twist to make it and add on to it. And that's why people come in and they're like, this is a different environment than I've ever been in.
Yep.
Like I've never had someone that wanted me to win for me so much.
Well, I was talking to my wife about that and we were talking about our daughter. And sometimes we get so stuck in trying to be right. And my mentor pounded that in my head years ago. He goes, Kenny, quit trying to be right and be happy. Because if you're happy, you're right too, right? Quit making people wrong. Like if we make somebody wrong, somebody loses. You're going to win a battle and lose the war, right? And I was talking to her. I was like, what we were doing with our daughter, we were arguing because of how we were both raised.
Yeah.
And I was like, look, I go, it's about her, not about us. And if you see me doing something that can be better, I have no problem with that. I've been coached my whole life. I played sports my whole life. And I realized early on that a coach sees more in you than you see in yourself. And if they can show you your blind spots and make you improve, swallow your pride, shut up, and do what you're supposed to do. And if you can do that, you're going to win. Right? It might take you a little longer to get there.
Yeah.
That's okay. But I've never been too proud to listen to people that are better than me.
Yeah.
Doing what I want to do. I mean, that's just that's so common sense. Why would I not listen to that? Right. But we have people out there that want to do it their own way. And I'm like, look, did you ask the person above you if they tried that? Because usually they have. Did it work? Okay. Did Betty's Crocker, did her thing work or did yours work? Right. Like it works. Just trust the process. Right. So, but you got to get better.
Yeah. You got to get better. And it's that taking responsibility. It's the only way. If you take responsibility, then things get better because you get better. And I mean, what you said about I want to change anything in my life, that's only the sentiment of someone who's owned everything in their life. And so you've improved from it, right? The people who want to change, go back and time travel and change everything in their life, it's because they haven't taken responsibility for where they are then. Any last words for the audience?
Let's thrive in 25, man. You know what I mean? It's time. It's prime. I mean, we have a whole health movement. I'm, previously a chiropractor. I'm reaching out to all my colleagues. I'm like, guys, this is what we're designed to do. The average American's on 4 drugs, 18 years to 70. We are listed in the PDR.net. We have Apple stock before the iPhone. I mean, that's literally what we have. This stuff is unbelievable, right? And it's almost comical. Like, people see you and they're like, what do you, like, I'm drinking 2 teas a day and a fiber. Like, it doesn't even, but if you just buckle in and listen. And one thing I did for years, and I still do today, follow people that are doing what you want to do. Get around them, be with them. If they're speaking somewhere, go be around them, be in that aura, and that will rub off on you, right? And that's what I do. I go, I'm here, I'm there, I'm all.
Yeah, you'll be back here in a few weeks.
Yep. Yeah, it won't even be a few weeks, right? I forgot about that, right? I was going to go to Rav's event, but I'm speaking in Arkansas. Like, I'm everywhere trying to make everybody around me better. When you blaze a trail like that, it's only a matter of time before you really catch fire. And I know, I just fall in love with the process, right? Yeah. Stop worrying about results and just love the process. And if you love the process, you'll continue to improve the process and you'll take off.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for coming down.
Thank you, man, for having me.
It's a pleasure. And I think people are finding a lot about you. So thank you.
Thank you.